deal that you probably perhaps shouldn't have made so far. Brilliance speaks. That looks like that, but as you say, that's 1 year of football. I mean, even Tano Passanio supposedly is looking a little better so far this year. Yet another second-round choice.
Yeah.
It was the
He was
first
second.
pick.
Yep.
I don't think he was the first pick. He was a second behind somebody
Was
else.
he?
I'll look it
Okay.
up.
But anyway, he was a second-round pick, and he thus far hasn't panned out. So the Chiefs have had Chris Jones and Mitch Morse in our memory, and the other second-round picks who are really, that's supposed to be not a 50-50. That's supposed to be an 80-20 deal, that he's going to be a good football player for you.
I believe that first-round picks should start right away. Second-round picks should start sometime during that first year. Third-round picks should start sometime in their tenure with the Chiefs, but they all need to make the team. Now, you're going to miss every now and then you make up for it when you find the diamond in the rough in 4, 5, 6, 7.
Right.
4 and 5 are, in a deep draft year, are something that, you should feel like special teamers come out of 4 and 5. And then 6, 7 are undrafted free agents that you just don't want to mess around with negotiating to get them. That's all they are. They're no better than the college free agents. They're just the ones that you want to make sure that you don't have to go negotiate with. So they're your top college free agents. But there is not a first-round tier, second-round tier, third-round tier. There's kind of like about 4 tiers. Right? There's your true first rounders. Then there's a group that usually encompasses maybe half the first round and maybe half the second round to maybe all the second and half the third. And then there's another tier that's like, okay, these are special teamers that maybe we can work some magic on. And then we're going to take a flyer.
Right.
And 6th and 7th rounds are basically flyers.
And you get the opportunity now to
Tano is second behind Mahomes.
to do a lot
They
more.
said a first and third and a first to get Mahomes, not a second.
To do a lot more with these players, too, because almost universally now, draft choices, it's kind of news when any draft choice gets cut the first year. I mean, they're inexpensive. You at least want to keep them on the practice squad. I mean, anybody in the first 5 rounds that gets cut, I mean, that is real.
Yeah.
Russell
And that didn't used to be the
drafting
case. I
disaster.
mean, a 4th or 5th round draft choice, they might have to work hard, but they'd rather just have a cheaper player. I think, the the replacement player type of axiom, I think, has finally come to football, and they realize, why should we keep this third-year guy around who's been okay for us, but his contract's coming up. I'm not going to cut a draft choice just to keep him around.
Yeah, it definitely comes to fruition when you go to a second contract. You need to be really good to get a second contract. I mean, the league is filled with first contract guys.
Right.
The vast majority of the people in the league are first contract guys. I'm not saying the vast majority of the guys playing, but the vast majority of the guys taking up 53 are first contract guys. That's how you make the cap work with a $30 million quarterback, is you got to have a lot of $500,000 guys.
Right, and maybe you've discovered that this guy who's in his third year is a serviceable player and a good special team or whatever for you, but you know he's nothing special, so why would you cut a draft choice to keep him on the team? I mean, that's sort of where I think the NFL has gone.
Yes. I mean, I think the bottom line is, though, and I love what Chris Ballard's doing, he keeps trading back out of the first to get more seconds. And he keeps sliding down, and he threw 3 second-round picks at it last year? Isn't that what he had? And 2 or 3 of them ended up being studs. I'm going to look here. I'll look here in a second. But he ended up having a great draft, and I think that's the way to go. And the Chiefs keep using picks to move up and try to get a guy. Where Indianapolis in 2019 did get Quentin Nelson at 6, and then they had 4 second-round picks. Darius Leonard ended up being first-team all-defense. In fact, was he the defensive rookie of the year?
He was good anyway.
Brandon Smith local guy, started on the offensive line for him in the second round. Kimoko Toure, I know, played, and then Tyquan Lewis also played, because I remember breaking him down going into the playoff game against the Chiefs.
Leonard was defensive rookie of the year.
Okay. I love the second round. I think that's the best. Next favorite round, third. Because not only if you do get guys that are good, they're super cheap.
Right.
Those guys don't make any money. Chris Jones is $1.2 million against the cap, and he had 15.5 sacks. That's how you become a great team.
Right.
And it's a good thing when they traded down. I just looked at that trade. They sent first, number 28, and a 7th to move down to 37 to get Jones, and they picked up a 4th and a 6th. And it's a good thing Jones stood out because the other 2 players they got in that deal were Parker Anger, who was inactive for a lot and was just signed today by the Cardinals, and DJ White, who
which,
wasn't
by the
here
way,
very
that's
long
an
either.
insult.
That's
One, you're not signed, and
where
2,
you-
the Cardinals are the team that did sign you.
where you
Not
go.
only are they bad, their offensive line is atrocious. At least it was last year. But yeah, but you know what those picks do allow you to do is throw numbers at it.
Right.
You know, even if like when you look at a trade, like I always said, you know, the deal that the Chiefs made for Jared Allen, you can look at who they actually got, and a lot of people confuse it and they say, well, they got Jamal Charles. They take all the best guys, and in actuality, in that deal, I think they got the safety or corner. They got a second good one.
DeJuan Morgan or somebody.
Yeah,
like
DeJuan
that.
Morgan, I think, was one of them, and of course Brandon Albert was one of them. But they kind of cherry picked. No, Jamal Charles in there. I don't think the Charles pick actually was one of the ones they got. But the point is, they had 3 third-round picks.
Right.
So you get to throw numbers at it. If you have 3 third-round picks, one of them's probably going to be pretty good. So get more seconds and thirds. Throw numbers at it because you still miss in the first round sometime.
Right. I agree. I think that that was my initial point, that I think maybe in the effort to get what they think will be a special player, they're not getting the kind of volume that allows you to have more chances to get a special player. You're putting all your eggs in one basket, and in this case, it's a wide receiver basket, and that basket full of eggs often gets dropped on the sidewalk.
So it's really easy to sit here and say, and by the way, I am rooting for Mecole Hardman.
I have nothing
all
against
3
this
of
guy.
them. I want him to be great. I'm a Chiefs fan. I want to see I want to see him win the Super Bowl. So I want everybody to be great. I like Brett Veach. I want him to be a brilliant drafter, right? And I will say this: he's got a much better chance to be really good here because Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball. And like the highlight, everyone's going to see that we've been looking at a couple of different times where Patrick Mahomes saying it's the worst 60-yard throw of my career or my life or whatever. It's because he's on a dead run and then just chucks it, and it still gets 60 yards, and Hardman has to come back for it a little bit, but he catches it. And by the way, Bashaud Breeland is nowhere to be found. And maybe it was a blown coverage, and he's recovering for somebody else's mistake or something. But anyway, it comes in there, and he catches it, and it goes for a touchdown. And, it's he just the fact that Mahomes can throw darts means he's going to make some big plays.
Right.
I mean, he's going to make some big
size,
plays.
fast receiver. Yes.
Right. So, but I also grade what he is on the fact that he doesn't have Matt Castle throwing to him, right? He has Patrick Mahomes. So, what would quantify a career where he warrants going 56?
I think he has to be maybe a strong number 2 wide receiver. I would say at
think
the,
so.
at
I
the
think eventually-
worst, and
yeah,
I think he should make you probably should make a Pro Bowl or 2.
If he's an
Pro
understudy,
Bowl, not all Pro
Yeah,
Bowl.
Pro Bowl. If he's an understudy this year behind Sammy Watkins and Demarcus Robinson, okay, and he returns some kicks and punts, great. But if next year they go, we're going to save $14 million against the cap and walk on Sammy Watkins, and we're also not going to keep Demarcus Robinson, or we're going to re-sign Demarcus Robinson,
and he plays like Chris Conley,
and Robinson
failure.
Yeah, and Robinson, is still the third, and Hardman steps up and is the starting wide receiver, and grabs 808 and 1,006, and then 809 the next 3 years. I'll say okay. I don't even think he has to be a Pro Bowler, but I'd like him to be. I'd like him to be, but it's going to be hard to be a Pro Bowler next to Tyreek Hill.
I'm just saying that there end up to be so many injury things and everything that if you're a good football player for 7 years at the start of your career, you probably make a Pro Bowl at some point.
Yeah, I'm not going to put the pressure on him that he has to be, Isaac Bruce to Torrey Holt.
Right. No,
that's the dream,
no.
right? To have Tyreek Hill and somebody be like, okay, we've got this dynamic wide receiver tandem like that, the greatest show on turf Rams had. But he can't be Oz Akeem either.
Right.
Who was like the third wide out on that.
Yeah.
Ricky Prohl. No. And just like he can't be like that Rams team had all that firepower and they went out and drafted Trung Candidate, the bottom of the first round. Do you remember him?
Oh, yeah.
If you're driving around there.
When did he go to Stanford?
Arizona.
Oh,
if you're
Arizona.
driving around out there and you're like, no, I don't. Well, good. You have a life. You shouldn't know Trung Candidate because he did nothing. but he was a scat-back, fast running back that they drafted while they had Marshall Faulk and all this talent. And they went out and got this. Draft an offensive lineman, for crying out loud, if you're going to draft offense, or get defense, which is what the Rams needed most of that time. But, I want him to be good because I want to believe that they're going to hit in the second and third rounds. Like, if you're going to be a dynastic team, is that even a word?
Yes.
Okay. If you're going to be a dynastic team and be more than maybe just like the Packers who got one, and everybody drools over how well Ted Thompson supposedly was drafting all the time, right? They won one with Aaron Rodgers. They got to one with Aaron Rodgers. And that's all they won. That's underperforming with Aaron Rodgers. Well, if you want to be the Packers, I mean, look, right now, yes, I'll take my one. So for you Packer fans, first I want the first one. I can't win my third Super Bowl as a fan until I've seen them win the first one. So I get it, I want the first one. But if you're going to be a truly elite team, Steelers, at least Steeler-esque, right? I mean, no one's ever been Patriot-esque, so let's shoot for the Steelers first. If you're going to be that, play in 3, win 2, right? That's what Roethlisberger's done, right?
Yes.
If you're going to be you're going to have to hit on these second and third round picks.
Well, the other part that it will be sort of a developing trend is drafting Georgia wide receivers who have no production in college, but they
test well.
I mean, the man in a passing offense with a good quarterback.
Well, they pound the rock a lot at Georgia.
They do, but I mean, they
will throw
not
it,
like
but
they had nobody to throw the ball. He caught 35 balls last year. I mean, that's not very good.
Well, and that's one of the things.
0, 25, and 35 in the 3 years he played.
And I'm looking here.
Paris Campbell was catching 90 for 1,000, only 1,063, only 11.8, but 12 touchdowns last year.
Well, he played out of the backfield.
Yeah.
And that is the Paris Campbell's the one. He went 2 picks later.
Oh yeah, good. Let's take care of that situation.
You
right
good
now.
there, Danny? You all right?
Yeah,
I don't want to cause any problems for you there, buddy.
Yeah.
They threw it 306 times. They ran it 567 in his defense.
True.
So they pounded the rock. There were 206 completions, and he had how many of them?
35.
34 is what I'm seeing.
Maybe they don't include a playoff game or something.
I don't know.
I'm looking at 35.
Yeah, but different sites. The ESPN's hosing him one. 34 for 532, 16 yards per catch, 7 touchdowns.
That's funny because they clearly just missed a catch, I guess.
And by the way,
they had a little less yards and one less catch.
The bigger recruit and the guy who was a bigger name there was Riley Ridley, who was 44 for 570 and 9 touchdowns. And did he even get drafted? If he did, it was really late. He might have gone 5th, 6th, 7th.
Right.
But that was the bigger recruit that was there at the time. But they ran the ball. I get it, but I'm with you. I mean,
you mentioned the Chung candidate, and you just don't want to fall into a trap either where you're trying to replicate a player that you have. And why did they draft this guy? Because he can really run. Mm-hmm. And you've got somebody on your team who can really run. And the Marshall Faulk, because Chung candidate kind of looked like.
Oh, really? When the fourth, Curtis says. Okay.
Marshall Faulk.
Higher than I thought, but. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Right.
Well, but we do know that this was somewhat of a draft pick in case Tyreek Hill isn't there, and I think it's a draft pick to replace Sammy Watkins either next year or the year after.
True enough.
And he needs to do that. You need to be able to. You can't give $16 more million. I mean, next year Watkins counts 21 against the cap. I don't think the plan is to keep him.
I would think
the plan is for Hardman to make him expendable.
You would, there's no way they're going to pay him the $21 million. Now maybe they'll figure
a
way to cut it, keep him around. But
it's $14 million savings to cut him.
Most guys don't opt for that.
All right, we'll take a break. More with Danny Clinkscale. Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?